It's the Sunday service. The super dance key. Disco be a warning. Dooby dooby doo, dooby doo.
Hello and welcome to the Sunday service with me, Super Tosser, and I don't even know if that's actually, if the sound actually came up on that. Such is life. What I will say at the very beginning though, is if there is a kind of like very tiny minimal issue with the sound, I don't have a producer. I am me. I am alone in this. So please, if it's just your personal preference for it to be slightly louder, I have no way of fixing that or of knowing that. So just a bit of housekeeping at the very beginning. Welcome one and all. Apologies for last week. It was a bit of a weird one last week. So today we are talking about the far right, the infiltration of the far right. What I'm going to do before I do that is just get my it's easier for me to view this like on my phone. This is going to be great, says Wistelia. That's open to debate, isn't it? We'll see how it goes. But it's been a bit of a heavy couple of weeks, and I have personally been in research mode. I go through periods of this where I will just kind of like absorb an inordinate amount of information, like a ridiculous amount of information, and then I'll just like not poo, but I'll just make like a shed load of content. So I've been doing a bunch of reading and writing and staring in horror, and I've not really known how to articulate it in a way that's not, massively depressing. Because, oh God, they're going to ruin my life tonight. I know it. But it's been a really bad week for it. Just in the last couple of days, we've had Nick Tenconi, the revealing who UKIP were all along with his Sig Heil, after doing the dance of a alleged child abuser who is now the President of the United States of America. So that's good. He claimed that the gesture was out of context, although it's very difficult to think about a time when there is a normal context for doing that at a fascist rally. And you know what, when I looked it up, it was actually hard to distinguish which one it was, because he has done this so often. Yeah, there's about 2 or 3 other occasions where he has thrown the arm out. Before all of his all the people that they're trying to copy, all the magats, all the GB News bellends started doing it recently, when Musk, the guy who compensates for his bodged knob with rockets to space, and there's also been a situation where I would say the most shockingly worrying of them all, Rupert Lowe mistook rowers for dinghies off the coast of Yarmouth. Wow. Well, this is interesting to me on many fronts because of the way that it reveals the accountability vacuum that exists. These people are platformed incessantly, but because they're so small, and because they're such, an obvious like method of clickbait for the papers who don't care about the fabric of our society, they just care about clickbait. There's absolutely no accountability, like whatsoever. So they're just platformed without any critique. And it's the platforming and the normalization of these talking points, which is the thing that's kind of worrying me the most. And then you've got the kind of like GB News weirdos who are claiming to be citizen journalists, who in 2 separate locations platformed Ginger Tony, who's a well-known member of Robinson's ilk. But in both separate locations, when she was filmed by GB News citizen journalists, aka dickheads who spread disinformation with a phone camera, she was a local resident in both situations. So there we go. And obviously there was tiny Tommy 10 Names, who was arrested at Luton Airport on suspicion of GBH after for alleged assault of a man at St Pancras station. So on top of that, we have once again had widespread rallies that are being infiltrated by and or promoted and created and generated by fascist organisations. They're not just hard right, they're not just far right organisations, they are literal fascists like the Homeland Party, who have been all over Epping since for years actually. Like Epping has been a hotbed for a number of years, and I was actually writing this in my notes the other day, that they've actually been a hotbed of far right activity. The BNP won there in the 2000s, the early 2000s. Loughton. So Epping's no stranger to this kind of activity, and the nationwide protests, if you can call them that, I'm calling them what they are, which is far right rallies, are being amplified and leapt on by the kind of people that pose in front of swastikas, by the kind of people who glorify terrorists. Yet there's no prescription, is there, of and there's no real clampdown on it, because for years now the only real extremism has been seen as Islamic extremism. So there's some stuff going on in the chat here. Just want to acknowledge a big thank you to Diana Rigg. You're not the Diana Rigg, are you? Who sent 5 gift memberships. So welcome to Trip, Lost Missionary, Martin Harrow, Joe Davids, not Stephen Sinclair, and Sue Fairwolf. I can't actually see your names properly. So welcome to the party, pal. Welcome one and all. So yeah, what I've been struggling with and what I've been focusing on, because I have been like knee deep in this for the last couple of weeks, and I've been trying to kind of like formulate it into like a series of videos, and I've been paralysed because I've not been able to compartmentalise it adequately. Like I've had real struggle with trying to separate it all and not answer all the questions in one go, which is really tricky because they're all over us at the moment. And as we all know, we've been here before. I was thinking to myself today about the rise of the National Front in the 1970s. And before I get onto that, we've got a super chat. Thank you very much, Yuri. Yuri Ninfektonov. There was an anti-immigration rally outside Newark Council office on Saturday, attended by 7 reformers with a combined IQ of -7. -7. Sounds about right, yeah. You see, what we've got a real problem. And I think the political class of this country are applying outdated fixals to a problem that's got very modern methods of mobilization. That's the thing that is worrying me the most about this, is the fact that in the 70s, with the National Front and the rise of the National Front, we had not only the cultural pushback against it, but we also had the Tories and Labour, to some extent, taking on board the calling card of the far right. So just like how Labour's piss poor approach to this is inadvertently magnifying it and normalising it and giving it credence, Labour and the Tories did that back then. They kind of adopted some of the talking points, even though they didn't do it in a kind of fascistic way. They adopted some of the talking points and were like, okay, yeah, we're going to deal with the problem you're dealing with immigrants. We're going to deal with all of that. The problem that we have now is the very obvious issue of how easy it is to radicalise. Like, you can radicalise people via the algorithms very quickly, and you can reach millions of people, hundreds of thousands in one tweet alone. And back then they were relying on things like, flyering. And the issue is now that not only do we have the kind of social media aspect, but we have elements of the political class like Genrick, etc., other Tories, and sadly some Labour MPs echoing what the fascists are saying. And that is not going to do anything but pour petrol on the fire. We're going to be in trouble. We're already in trouble because of that. Plus, I mean, back then you did have the tabloids. You had the tabloids joining forces, fueling it, because they're scum, and they've always been scum. And it's always been a kind of like rich man's approach to profit from the fear and to profit from the kind of control that you can gain from making people scared. And outside the hotels or the centres or wherever it is, there are some local people. There's an awful amount of local people. But that fear that is being generated in them is not organic. It is manufactured fear. And what people like Genrick are doing is they're tarring every single person in that hotel with the same broad brush, which is textbook racism, and it's having a consequence where we're getting to a point where legal migrants, people that have come here via, work visas, etc., are being considered dangerous by dint of being foreign. And we're also getting it with the British people of colour, towards whom racism is just out of control again. It is just fueling hate crimes, and it is making people afraid of people that don't look like them. And the crime in many cases for people seeing these people in their community is that these people are committing the crime of being visible whilst being foreign. And there are really simple solutions to all of this, which is not just to process fast and allow these people to work and to integrate and assimilate, but to take a completely different approach from a government perspective in terms of the fight back against it. And what Labour's doing at the moment, even though they did inherit this, they inherited this political nightmare. They inherited a fucked economy which just causes conspiracy and unrest to thrive. They inherited that, but how they're handling it is making it a million times worse. So yeah, we're in a very, very unsettling position off the back of 14 years of really a really damaging and difficult and horrible political landscape. So a lot of people I know, include, I am also kind of burnt out by it. So it's been a lot. But back in the 70s, the thing that really helped to put an end to it was the kind of cultural revolution of, like, we had ska, we had two-tone, we had stand up, like I can't remember what it's called now, I need to find it, hang on, what was the name, the anti-racist kind of gigs that went on. I was going to say stand up to racism, but that wasn't what they were called. You guys are normally spot on in the chat, so you tell me what they were called, because I'm having a brain fart. I'll find it eventually. I can't fucking remember it. Get the migrants out, says Tommy Bell. You are a bell, mate. Rock Against Racism, that's it. Yeah, we had Rock Against Racism, and it was a time when our culture was less disparate, which is another thing that is really massively, massively concerning me, because we don't have the same kind of like collective culture that we once had, where we would have like quite a varied kind of musical landscape, which would be on kind of like Top of the Pops. So you would have like such a random mix on Top of the Pops, and that would be a kind of like collective cultural moment that everyone would get behind, even if it was something ridiculous. But we don't have that now. And everything is so separate and disjointed, and people spend so much time on their phones, and all it takes is to fall into one element of it, and then you're pushed down the pipeline. And if you see what you're seeing on your phone in terms of like racist content, then that will be affirming. If you see what you see on your phone in terms of racist content, that will be affirmed by what you'll see in terms of like the headlines, where they're calling these things fucking protests when they are fascist rallies. And you will see that the people that are pushing this hateful racist rhetoric, you will see them platformed and given legitimacy on things like Question Time and Newsnight, which people still see as a kind of like a trustworthy thing. And that's relatively new. People in the chat are quoting they're quoting the old ska lyrics, which I'm very impressed by. I was raised on that music. My dad came from East London, so I moved to where I grew up, and I was raised on the Specials and the Clash and the Beat and the Selector and all that music. It was yeah, you're right, that it did start with Thatcher. It, you know, well, it didn't start with Thatcher, but she was a fucker that fueled the fire. So if you look also at the economic instability and the inequality of the 70s, they had oil crises, inflation, strikes, blackouts, NHS underfunded. Now we're seeing the very same groups profiting from that here. We're seeing exactly the same shit coming out of men like Farage and Lowe, who are multi-millionaires, privately educated city men who have made extraordinary fortunes out of spreading the hatred, division and fear that we're seeing now. It's estimated that from his extra jobs, Farage made, God, what was it, nearly $1 million? That's a conservative, no pun intended, estimate, $1 million last year. This is why they go for these jobs. This is why. And it's always about kind of like blaming the migrant or the taxi driver or the Deliveroo driver, and not their mates who own about 16 houses and rent them out as houses of multiple occupancy, and people are living in fucking squalor and despair and paying through the nose for it, with inflation and food prices and everything costing more. And then they're automatically going to be led into blaming Johnny Foreigner instead of pointing up. Curtis L0202. Thank you so much for the super chat. Sorry it's not much. Thanks for all you do. You don't have to say sorry it's not much. It's very kind of you to offer me a super chat on this evening. Gives me a moment to pause so I can have a little sip of my bougie water. Ugh. I'm drinking fancy water at the moment. I'm actually on a massive health kick at the moment. Very nice. I've put a bit of lemon in it to try and make it taste better. I'm not sure if it's working. Maybe it is working. Looks like gin. No, I'm off the booze, I'm afraid. I'm off the booze. I'm having a bit of bit of time off. People in the chat, Captain, the Captain is saying, still a 70s kid myself. I was born in the 80s, so I saw, as someone that was born to like teen parents, I felt it hard. My parents were on the dole, you know. I lived in a council house. I know what it's like to grow up choosing between heating and eating. You know, I know what that's like. So, Pete Q60, thank you very much for the super chat, my dear. A lot of the now banned 70s sitcoms actually parodied the idiocy of the bigot. Sadly, the layers of irony are misunderstood nowadays. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is another problem. I mean, I would say the reason one of the reasons why that's not working has been the inheritance of mad conspiracy. Because now what we've got in the mix is we've got conspiracy theories in the mix, which is emphasizing the radicalization process massively. Because what these figures do, whether it's Tate, whether it's Farage, whether it's Lowe, whether it's Robinson, whether it's Russell Brand, is they create this, they kind of they encourage their viewers to kind of contribute conspiracy bullshit. They create a situation where nobody really knows what to believe or what's real. And then from that, anything they do that is criminal is automatically seen as being a part of the matrix or a part of the deep state. Which, if you can get people on side that will believe anything, your power is extraordinary. And since the pandemic, we've just had this massive uptick in idiots believing conspiracies, especially around things like anti-vax, but like the anti-vax situation. They're all intrinsically linked to the far-right pipeline. And then from that, you've got offshoots like anti-vax, misogynists, anti-Semitics. Like, you've got all these people that branch off from the central conspiracy pipeline, because it's like about 12 people, I think, in total, a few years back, that were behind most of the conspiracies that are spread online regarding vaccinations. And they were all linked to the far right. And another offshoot of the far right is the anti-trans panic and hysteria, because trans people are yet another scapegoat that's being weaponized. And the reason they are scapegoating is so that you won't look up at the people that are really responsible, which are the millionaires and the billionaires that have fucked the planet and made your life worse. So yeah. Sorry, I've just had a super chat come in. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hello, Yuri, hello. Not just even conspiracy, the now inherent distrust for facts, the far right's kryptonite. Thank you for the super chat. Absolutely. Yes. But then it's all the same. By its very nature, conspiracy relies upon a distrust of facts, and it relies on people being in a vulnerable situation where they might want a quick fix. And what is the vulnerable situation that people are finding themselves in at the moment? Insecure jobs, insecure rents, housing, the impending threat of climate change. People are more likely to be radicalised into looking for quick fixes when they are otherwise deprived. And when you look at the areas, I live quite close to Clacton. I don't live that far from Clacton at all. It's my nearest seaside town, pretty much. The deprivation. Jaywick falls as a part of the Clacton constituency. And Jaywick was the most deprived place in Britain. And then you've got Great Yarmouth, also hugely deprived. Like, a lot of these seaside towns, they had an uptick during the pandemic because no one could travel abroad, right? But they have been underfunded and run into the ground for years, ever since cheap package holidays took off in the 80s, wasn't it? So they've systematically been underfunded. They tend to have huge drug problems. They tend to have lower educational attainment, and they are prime targets, therefore, for cunts like Farage and Rupert Lowe and their ilk. And it's the same as the Trump playbook in America. Exactly the same. They target people that are broke, that are destitute, and they prey on their vulnerabilities and they use their skulls as a stepping stone to make themselves richer and more powerful, and in governments, therefore fucking untouchable. It is such an obvious con job. And it blows my mind that people can't see it for what it is. It really does. But mind you, until I became a political nerd, I've always had an interest in politics. I've always followed it. I've always voted. I've always kept myself informed. If what you're getting is just like a snippet a day, and almost every single outlet is magnifying this bollocks, it's gonna be easy for you to fall into it. Sue Fair Wolf B, thank you for the £10 super chat. I'm going to attend the Stop Trump demo in September. I grew up in the 80s with a single mother demonised by Thatcher. I'll keep fighting. Good for you, mate. Good for you. Good for you. We need to get as many people out on the streets as possible to counter and to fight this. Bear with me a second. I just need to sort out my my light. Oh, I need to make myself a bit brighter. But I've got some notes here, because I've been writing in my book loads, and I'm just looking through the notes that I have been writing about this. One of the things that kind of infuriates me the most is how easy it is to fact check nowadays, which makes me believe that a lot of the people that are falling into conspiracy and falling into this bigotry are choosing to believe it. So they might know deep down it's bullshit, but it's giving them something that they haven't had previously. And what is that, possibly, that they're finding in this bigoted, hateful, outpouring that we're seeing? Possibly a sense of community, possibly a sense of belonging to something which they're missing in the rest of their lives. And they're just going about it in a massively terrible way. And that's not an excuse for them, but it could be a part of the reason for it, because we've become so disparate and disjointed and we're lacking connection. Maybe they're seeing these protests. I'm talking about obviously the people that aren't literal fascists that are there, but they might be seeing it as literally something to do. It's like pulp, isn't it? Drink and smoke and screw because there's nothing else to do, right? It's free. It's free to turn up with some tinnies and your mates and treat it as like a kind of like fascist fete. Like a summer fete, you know? Sorry, I just thought I saw something disturbing in the chat, but it turned out to be surprisingly wholesome. There's also kind of like the backwards reaction to limited resources. Dodger37 has just said in the chat, I just want to quickly acknowledge this. How do I stop adverts as a subscriber to Tanned YouTube? I would, if they're annoying, I'm sorry, but I would also gently remind you that as YouTubers, that's how we make our money. So adverts, ad revenue is how we make money from what we do on YouTube. So I would really appreciate it if people kind of support what I do, that they don't turn the ads off, because that's kind of like basically our income, you know. So but yeah, it's kind of what we're seeing is like a backwards response to limited resources. And the important question to ask there is, why are there limited resources? 14 years of Tory misrule and deprivation. They literally targeted Labour areas and deliberately underfunded them, like Labour councils. And then they diverted those funds to the rich kind of like home counties, constituencies that were already rich. So there was supposed to be I can't remember what it was called now under Johnson. Levelling up. There's offensive anti-Gaza ads. What? Fortunately I've not seen them. And as I was saying earlier, like, I'm not excusing Labour's approach at the moment because it's fucking ridiculous and wrong and making it worse. But they inherited like a massive backlog of claims from the Tories who refused to process them because they knew those people had a right to remain. So we've got that. Then we've got the policy of the Tories, which was essentially, Farage in drag from 2016 onwards. And then we've got things like the Rwanda plan, 700 million of our money. COVID fraud, 36 billion or more. Wasted on track and trace or test and trace or whatever the fuck it was called. A bankrupted country, a hopeless population. And before they went, they made sure that they made everyone nice and racist with the Stop the Boats campaign, demonisation of migrants, demonisation of immigrants and asylum seekers, to the point that it was chanted at places where people were trying to burn down hotels. And then there's the Bibi Stockholm, which was the port in which the Bibi Stockholm was kept, was owned by a family called the Langham family, right? They made 19 donations to UKIP between 2003 and 2016, totaling 70 grand, this family. The late founder was an avid supporter of UKIP, and they reckon the docking profit that they made from the Bibi Stockholm being there was likely 4 grand a day, which could have added up to over 2.5 million over the 18 months that it was there. And the sister of John and the director of Langham Industries was appointed by Sunak to the Bank of England. They are all together profiting from this. They are profiting from this enormously, while spreading outwardly hatred and division towards the asylum seekers. They are making maximum bank out of it. That's one example. And not to mention that these, the Bibi Stockholm, the Manston camps were essentially concentration camps. They let them be overrun with disease and fighting and limited resources, heavy-handed security, and people were dying there. People were put onto the Bibi Stockholm with TB, and they allowed Legionnaire's disease to spread there. They were trying to kill off the asylum seekers. And the only reason we have hotels, we had the Bibi Stockholm, we had the Rwanda scheme, although that was a soft launch of the new Brexit, which is leaving the ECHR, so we're left with no rights whatsoever. The whole point of all of these was a way to encourage public disdain towards asylum seekers and refugees and to profit. Because the people that run these, hundreds of kids have gone missing from these asylum hotels. Hundreds of kids. Likely trafficked. That is a fucking scandal. And whilst any crime that's committed towards anyone is terrible. When you weigh that up against a handful of reported crimes which are magnified by asylum seekers, of course you're going to have a couple of wrong uns in an entire group of people. But the thing that really winds me up as a woman is now they suddenly care about the fact that 98+% of rapists get away with it. They suddenly care about that shit when it's technically legal. Now it's brown men doing it. Because it's ownership. It's racism. Anyway, I've got some super chats. Ba 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 ba. Little bit of I've just got to make sure I haven't missed any. Okie dokie, pig and a pokey. Dagsby 4685. Thank you so much for the £10 super chat. I'm glad people like you are around speaking the truth. Well, I try, my love. I try. Arguably too hard sometimes, but I try. Okay, there was something else here. Viper Scott 1, thank you for the £10 super chat. I've seen firsthand what Thatcher did to Scotland. Even though Scotland voted Labour, got very disheartened, the cringe, and suddenly realised Scotland could look after itself, went to SNP. I mean, if I lived in Scotland, I would probably be looking to vote SNP myself, to be fair. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some dicks, as there are on every side of the kind of political spectrum, but I understand, you know, the desire to want to get rid of those gobshites in Westminster, and also the fact that you were, you know, massively dragged kicking and screaming out of the EU, even though you didn't want to be. Grim_beard, thank you for the £5 super chat. I'm not having ads interrupt you, so here's some money instead of ad revenue. Thank you very much. Richard Marsden, hello mate, thank you for the £4.99 super chat. Don't forget the likes of Centrica pocketing our money. Absolutely. Flipping bloody exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. It is a shame when people don't enable ads, because we are independent, non-billionaire funded. But I get they're annoying and they can interrupt, but it does help us. Viper, thank you for the £5 super chat. Test and trace cost what Scotland... Test and trace cost what? I assume that's a question mark. Scotland got 46 billion to run the whole of Scotland, all spaffed up the wall. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Abso-flipping-lutely. Let me just have a little look to see if there's anything I've missed in the chat. No, don't think there is, actually. I'm just going to have a little sip of my thing. So the things that I was talking about, the Bibi Stockholm profiteering, the Rwanda plan, the hotels, which, you know, Tories have profited from, it all adds up to one clear thing, which is that the Tories and Reform, besides their extra million jobs, are profiting enormously from this concern, from this hysteria that they're generating, which proves, as we all knew, that they're all in it together and we're the ones that are left or made to fight amongst ourselves. Such a con, man. Such a massive con. Evening, Tan. Good evening, Tan, says Ivan Ambrose. Thank you for the super chat. Good evening, sir. How are you this evening? So yeah, I've actually gone a little bit off piece from what I was going to be talking about, because I think I might make a video where I do some comparisons between the National Front and now. I'm just working out some ideas tonight. I have been a little bit monologue-y this evening because I'm working out. It's a way for me to kind of work out how to approach this from a video perspective. But the problem is, like, I keep sitting on it and then it moves on. But I think these things are kind of like evergreen, and they're going to keep like popping up over the next few years. I think we've not seen the end of it. Hang on, I just need to bring my thing down a little bit. That's better. But what we need to do is we need to redirect people as best we can. And it's so hard not to feed them. Because when you see someone like Tenkoni posting proudly him doing the dance of a child rapist and then doing a salute, it's really hard not to react to it. But the way they're getting on top of us is they are just owning the narrative. And most social media networks are pushing people towards them. It's a real struggle. It's real struggle. But the way that the National Front were brought down was via unions, anti-fascists, all pulling together on the street. Look at last year, the counter-protest by Stand Up to Racism, when they were massively outnumbered. You had those idiots in Brighton trying to come out and be racist, and they were surrounded in this like little kettling thing. One of them had like a flag wrapped around his waist. There was 5 of them. And I described them as like the worst Spice Girls tribute act ever. We saw a massive outpouring. We need to keep seeing this. We have to own the narrative. We have to reclaim our flag from them, because then it'll take away their power. It's not futile, but it's not going to be easy. And also, we can't waste time trying to convert the radicalised. All we can do is mock and satirise the radicalised. What we need to aim for are the people that are yet to be radicalised. The people that are kind of like toying with the idea of fascism. But sadly, we're seeing that it's like people are trying to equate being working class with being racist. And we're also seeing in the middle classes, as we're seeing in the lower classes, boredom turning to fascism. So, anyway, I'm going to just scroll up because I think I've missed some soups. Some soups for my soups. Kirsty Hamilton, 2521. When's Gove going to be investigated? You're going to have to be a bit more specific. What for? He's done a bunch of stuff that's mad. And now he's, fronting up the Spectator. Supporting Rod Liddell. The guy who said he couldn't become a teacher because he would shag the children. And said, let's bomb Glastonbury. That's what he said. Veg Pie 6165 for Tan and horsies. For me and the horsies. Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the super chat. It's a rock and a hard place situation because we push back on social media. It bumps up these abhorrent statements even more in the algorithms. I hard agree with that because the algorithms are skewed. It's not like a number of years ago when we had actual moderation. They're all licking Trump's arse from Meta Instagram, Threads, to Zuckerberg, Facebook, to Twitter, Musk, Twitter. Nearly went Theresa May then. Twitter. Got Twitter. It's all going bad on Twitter. Have a juice. Yeah, it's really bad on Twitter at the moment. You can't fight back there. I've got, basically, I got a tick for my last month on Twitter because I think I'm going to completely bin it. And for my last month on Twitter, just so I can profit from rapey men. Like, if I'm going to get that abuse from them, I'm going to make some money out of them, even though I make nothing. And it's also like an experiment, because I'm comparing myself like for like with all the fascists that have a similar following to me and seeing what the difference is in terms of... But you're right, we just need to send out our own message. That's another reason why I don't tend to do things like stitches, because I want to own my own narrative and focus on what I want to focus on, not clap back to others, you know. Tricky though. Kirsty McTeer 5030. I'm very bad with numbers. Thank you for the super chat. Please support the Good Law Project on trans rights. Absolutely do. Absolutely do. I've met with Mr. Morm. I never know how to say it. Jolyon. I've met with Jolyon. I've been to the Good Law Project's HQ, actually. I went there with Vorders a while, just, about 6 months before the general election, to have a natter. Interesting meeting. I 100% support Good Law Project, and Jolyon's a massive advocate for trans rights. 100% on their side. Veg Pie 6165. They're cats. Oh, of course they are. Of course they are. It looks from here, from where because my screen's kind of reasonably far away, it looks like people on the backs of horses, which is maybe I'm not seeing. I wasn't seeing correctly. Need to put my eyes back in. Urine Infectinov, £2 super chat, thank you. Watching this by the shore tonight. Boo! Which shore? Which shore? Which shore is that? I wish I was by the shore. Stay safe this week with our 4th heat wave, says Chris C _84. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit... I mean, it has been proper moody over the last month or so. Yeah, it has been like... It's been like actually almost autumnal over the last couple of weeks, I'd say. Like, I have actually been wearing socks. Been actually wearing my knee-high socks to keep myself warm. And 34 degrees is pretty spicy, but it's not as bad as, the ones that we've had previously. So, yeah, it could be worse. Could be worse. But I've got a gig coming up next week with the gang. Some of the gang. Scotty Too Hotty, who you might recognise from Politics Social. And Graham Hughes. That bloody scouser. I can't do it. I don't know why I always try to do accents. I'm terrible at them. We're going to see Smashing Pumpkins. I'm putting them up. So I'm hoping it's not massively hot that day, because that would be a bit of a shitter. Yeah, I don't do well, but it is later on in the afternoon, so we should be fine by then. So, Darian DeStaff, 3941. Thank you for the super chat. Contribution to Bytansky's Cat a Fish Fund. Aww. Don't think they'd know what to do with a real fish. They eat better than I do. Quite literally at the moment. Because I am on a healthy diet and lifestyle change at the moment. It's been moody for at least 15 years now, Tan. Did you not notice? No, I did. Hey, calm down. They do though, don't they though? I can't do it. Why do I always try? The shore outside my house. I would love to live beside the sea. Could harpoon. I could harpoon the bigots, couldn't I? That's an idea. Right, I'm going to wrap up pretty soon, so I'm going to actually keep this on a bit of a tighter turnaround. So I'm not going to ramble on for like 2 hours anymore, I'm afraid. So, how are they doing it? Before I wrap up, how are they doing it? Stoking racism and conspiracy, which helps them to deflect blame, because if we're preoccupied with being scared of something or hating something, we're less likely to point the finger at them. Or ask why we can barely afford our houses when billionaires are getting massive tax cuts. It helps them to consolidate power, which makes people scared. So people then vote for a strong leader to clear up the mess, even if it's the fault of the strong leader. It erodes solidarity in communities, particularly working class, lower class communities. Creates fear between different races. This is a really important one from my notes. It limits unified resistance against economic exploitation. And just to prove, these are actually all my notes here. Of course, it radicalises their base with conspiracies, and it creates an endless distraction. Whilst we're fighting about ourselves, we're not asking why Farage has got 10 jobs and he's made nearly $1 million in the last year, are we? No. And why do people fall for it? Fear is powerful. Threats to safety, culture, identity create feelings. And this is why trying to talk to them and de-radicalise them ourselves doesn't work, and why trying to debate them, even though their debate is below us, doesn't work, because it's linked to their identity. Like, they make this their identity. Simple villains, simple answers. Absolutely easier to blame migrants than unpick decades of complicated economic policy. Repetition sadly works, and people still fall for it. Tribal loyalty, hopelessness. When life feels hopeless or out of control, conspiracy offer a quick fix, a quick explanation. It's easier. So, and then there's also the deprivation, obviously, which I've gone through, and the anger and fear-based narratives, obviously. And there's also the eyeline effect in terms of popularity, because like in supermarkets, products placed at eyeline sell better. These politicians are being placed at our eyeline constantly, which is giving a false sense of trust. It's familiarity isn't breeding contempt, it's breeding trust. Right, so let me just go back up, because I've just missed something, I think. Oh, it's Ivan. Hello, Ivan. Thank you for the super chat. Phil had a difficult time from me on Friday on Graham's channel. I don't think he liked it, but I had to say what I said. This is with regard to Phil's constant matter-of-fact attitude. Graham understood what I meant. Okay, well, Phil's a buddy of mine. We're all kind of we're all in this together. All of us are kind of like in a group and we chat. So you're not going to find me ever talking smack about a part of our collective, our group. Obviously, everyone's got a different opinion on it. You're absolutely entitled to have your view on it, and this isn't me fence sitting. It's I keep out of other people's beef, especially if we're all on the same side. And B, I don't have any clue what you're talking about. I haven't seen what you're referring to. But Phil is very matter of fact. And it's something that I had a lot of difficulty with in the very beginning of my friendship. Phil and I have had a few, what are they called? I don't know how to describe it. We've had a few spicy conversations in the past. But how he does things is totally his call. I don't know what you're referring to. But, it's all right to disagree. It's all right to not like someone's approach, because everyone's got their own way of doing things. As long as he wasn't being, overly offensive to anyone in particular or being bigoted, people have just got their different way of doing things, And some people aren't going to like his style. You don't really have to. A frank exchange of views. We need to have them. We need to learn amongst ourselves, which we do all the time, by the way. In our kind of like politics social chat or in my political groups, we're not sitting there agreeing with each other. We have quite hardcore debates in them. Like, we will really massively disagree with each other, and it can get quite fraught, So it's normal. It's okay to disagree, It's all right to do that. Thank you for the super chat, Luna Dearpool. Very much appreciate the support there. But I think, it's just really important, because I think we've all got a lot of big feelings at the moment. It's really important, and we're all really dysregulated. And loads of us have our own versions of, neurodiversity amongst us. And, you can get clashes amongst neurodivergent people all the time. Like, the ones that I've noticed the most is I tend to have, more clashes with people that are kind of maybe more autistic. Because I'm ADHD, we might approach things differently. And I really piss off people with autism often. But it's not an all size, one size fits all scenario. Like, there's loads of grey area. Like, one of my best friend, one of my closest friends is ADHD. But you can get kind of clashes between different types of neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Sorry. So Yuri. I just saw some mention of balls here. But do you all agree on AIDS dad's balls? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Phil's usually okay, but he thinks everyone left of Blair is a tanky. I don't think that's entirely true. He's very he's got his own style. He's got his own way of doing it. He's got, there's some things that there are some things that are absorbed differently by different people. Ivan Ambrose, thank you for the super chat there. Sorry, Tam, but to me, Phil is blunt, abrupt. You don't be like this to autistic people and who are also severely mentally ill. I'm one of those people. I'm sorry to hear that you've got a lot of challenges going on there, Ivan. It's really important to be empathetic, I think, as possible, as much as possible. But it's also really difficult, I think, Ivan, when you don't have that back and forth, because you're not really, I think a lot of the time it could probably be solved by people just having a general conversation, like an actual kind of proper collaborative, back and forth. Collaborative's not the right word. Can't remember the word. But having a proper in-person back and forth where you both kind of contribute, that would probably help things a lot. But I'm really sorry that you're having those difficulties. I think there is an element of the autism in Phil, to be fair, but it presents in different people differently. But as I say, I'm very appreciative to have you on my channel, and I'm very empathetic as someone that also has ADHD and, you know, a fair amount of mental illness myself, post-traumatic stress disorder being one of them. So I understand how it can be when you get dysregulated by something. But I also think it's really important to maybe, if you can, direct that directly to the person, because, as I say, I'm not here to comment on other people's kind of specific situations when I have no idea what's going on. So I'd rather not turn this into like a Phil chat, if it's okay with you guys. But that doesn't mean I'm not sympathetic about what you have to deal with, because that's a very challenging position to be in. Right, guys, I'm gonna piss off very soon. Before I do, if anyone's got any questions, quick fire, hit them at me. Hit me with the questions. Oh, thank you, Ivan. Really appreciate that. And you're very welcome here. Like, you know, I really think that we should do some proper chats where we actually... I'd really quite like to invite some subscribers on someday. Goggins, says Joe Davids. Always the Goggins. Always the Goggins. I'm not a huge fan of Smashing Pumpkins. I'm only going to watch them because Skunk and Nancy are supporting. And I've never seen Skunk and Nancy live. I can't believe it. I've seen loads of people live and I've never seen. Empathetic or empathic? It's empathetic. Want to buy a hi-fi? No, I'm alright, mate. I'm good. How's training going? This week I have been more focused on my diet, and since the start I have lost 5 pounds and I've retained muscle. So I've lost like about 2 inches off my hips, 1 inch off my waist, 2 inches off my thighs, but the scales have only gone down about 5 pounds, which shows that the strength training and the high protein is doing its job. Shoulder still hurts like shit. Ow, I've got the physio. I'm certain that it is at least partially dislocated. So yeah. Oh God, okay, I've just missed some stuff. Hang on. Sarah Davies 16. Tanglot, glad I got home in time to watch. Love you and everyone in the chat. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh, back at you, Sarah. Thank you for watching. You are appreciated. You're all appreciated. Chris C_84. Thank you for the amazing show and community. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being you. Oh, Tim Smith 7695. Thank you for $19.99 US. I can't do an American accent. I can't do any accents. I'm terrible at them. The only thing I can briefly, very, very slightly do, even though I'm fucking it up now, is the Queen. Hello, my sons are nonce. You've seen Skunk live. Well, lucky you. Sorry that you couldn't make Idols in Bristol. They were good, although the dust was horrible. It was too much of a mission in the end. Like, mad too much of a mission, and it would have cost me an enormous amount of money, which I just didn't have by the time the gig rolled round. Plus, like, I'm not a super fan of any band. Like, I don't like to, you know, I'm not someone that tends to kind of watch every show of a band, although I do really like them. Acro Dave 9287, watch yourself with those comments. because you don't know what else Ivan's got going on besides the ASD. So I really think that you should check yourself before you wreck yourself, mate, there. Oh, I'm trying to keep up. I'm really far away. Bollocks to Brexit, Kirsty. Yes. How's your mental health today, Tan Dodger? Good, actually. Since I've been eating clean and training, I'm feeling better than I have in a while. I've had a bit of anxiety lately, but besides that, and the kind of ADHD paralysis being a bit shite, I'm doing like much better. I'm feeling much better. Thinking of leaving Labour for Corbyn. Help, lol. Yeah, you'll need it because all they're going to do is enable reform. Can we go fund seeing Oakshit's passport? I don't think so. Power to the people. Oh, come on. Keep up the great work, Tan. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. I am going to get super strong. I mean, I've not lost any weight off my arms. I lose my weight from my lower body first. So I don't know why. No, I don't want more inches in muscle. Thank you very much. That's kind of fat loss. But the reason I mentioned the muscle is that I've lost like fat, some so far, but I'm doing it alongside kind of keeping my muscle strength because nobody wants to end up with muscle wasting. So Pete Q60, thank you for the £5 super chat. Being able to disagree and yet respect an alternative view is emotional maturity. In these Trumpesian times, disagreement is weaponized. I agree, but it's also really important that we actually also manage to, I don't know, find some common ground amongst ourselves, really, which is massively missing. I think it is my rotator cuff. Yeah. I think it is. Skin is the bomb. Have you been doing that Queen accent for ages? Thank you for the super chat, DJW84, but it's really uncomfortable, especially for women, to be objectified on their live streams, so I'm not going to read that out. Okie dokie. Let's have a look. What else we've got going on? Ivan, thank you again. Just to say, the difficult exchange with Phil was on disability benefits and the state of NHS mental health services, and the fact many, including me, have to go private. Oh shit. Okay, yeah. I can see how that must be a difficult conversation to have. I mean, that is a topic upon which I have no mercy, and I consider the Labour government's position to be totally out of order. So I'm probably with you on that. Richard Marsden, is the coat hanger on the door an anti-cat entry device? It absolutely is. Dar Kowalski, bingo wings, he asks. I mean, I am quite close to, it doesn't really, yeah, I would say that I have put on weight on my upper arms, but I can't really do much about it because I can only do kind of like resistance. I have hypermobility syndrome, so my joints and my shoulder, my joints can just dislocate themselves really easily, and I overextend. So I was lifting really heavy weights, and that's probably how it happened. So looks like you need walls, angels, and face pulls. I don't know what that is, questionable obscenity, but I'll take your word for it. I'll look it up after, I think. unless you're trolling me. I don't think you are. Okie dokie. Yeah, a lot of people are only getting therapy because, you know, they've got help. I really like Today. It's a good song. Today is a good song by the Smashing Pumpkins, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I'm purely going for Skunk Anansie. Diana Rigg 3311, thank you for the super chat. What's with the Bojo mask face thing on the shelf? I got it during lockdown for a video that I was going to do parodying him. I was going to go around town in a suit dressed as Boris Johnson. It was a mad lockdown idea that I had to the to the soundtrack of Pass Out by Tiny Temper. And I was going to get like a bunch of people I know to be in the background of it. But yeah, that was a mad idea. A very mad idea. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up and bid you farewell. I think I've kept this to a snug hour and a bit. I've seen Rage Against the Machine too. I saw them at the free gig that they put on after they got to number one, and I later met and became friends with John Mortar, who pushed the campaign to get Rage Against the Machine to number one. But my friends poked a hole in the mouth of Boris Johnson. Literally, on my birthday, poked a hole in the mouth in order to what's the word? I've just lost control of the chat. In order to kind of like put their tongue through it and be scary. So, what's with the Super Mario stuff? I love old school Nintendo. It's a nightlight, but the batteries have run out and I haven't replaced them. But it's very cool. It's very cute. It's like my favourite era of Nintendo, really. But I'm a massive like N64 era retro game fan. Unbeatable on Mario Kart 64 and F-Zero X, come to think of it. And I could waste hours playing Zelda, so yeah. Anyway, thank you for all of you that tuned in. I will be back next week. I might also see you on Friday morning's Morning Brew with Graham Hughes, because he's going to be probably broadcasting it from this very room where he will be staying when he comes to visit me in my town. So he'll be doing that bright and breezy the next morning. I can't guarantee that I'll be anywhere near it because I don't know if I'll even be awake at 9 a.m. But I'll probably be woken up by his scouse tones coming through the wall. Thank you to everyone that tuned in tonight. Thank you to all of the community. You all keep me sane. And keep a lookout this week because I am actually finally... I'm such a perfectionist. I've got like 3 separate articles that I'm working on for my Ko-Fi. So if you're a subscriber there, you will have access to them. But I'm really I stress myself out before posting things because I worry about every single thing that I put out. So I will be putting them out, and I'll also be trying to put a lot of what I've discussed today into some kind of shorter form content too. So yeah, to all of you that tuned in, oh my goodness, Yuri, it's my sign off, man. Thank you, my love. Excellent stream again, Dennis. Keep up the good work. I prefer Denise. Oh, with your eyes so blue, even though my eyes are green. All of of you that tuned in tonight before Yuri and his bloody generosity interjected. Thank you. I appreciate and love you all, and I will see you again next Sunday. So for now, from me, thank you, good evening, and good night.
It's the Sunday service, the super dance key. This could be a warning. Doobie doobie doo.